and then through to Cav,
on the outskirts of Norwich. Stage 2 begins in Nottingham, crossing the Peak District, and then a sprint to the line on Merseyside, into the Scottish borders for Stage 3, and the ups and downs of Dumfries and Galloway, before a short hop to Carlisle, and the race to Blackpool. Over 2,000 metres of climbing awaits on Stage 5, starting and ending in Stoke-on-Trent, before the mountains of mid-Wales rear into view on Stage 6. Devon will host the penultimate stage, Barnstable on the county's north coast to Dartmouth in the south. And the final leg in Surrey will see riders head from Reigate through the finish line in Guildford and out into the Surrey Hills.
We've seen Lachlan Norton as well, the 20-year-old Aussie. He's been helping out quite a bit for the Garmin Sharp team, along with, of course, Sky. And there's been evidence of the Sigma Sport team as well. So they are really the three that have been contributing to the pace setting. Just on the right, sorry Rob, you can just see a hand up, but just ahead of them we can see three riders, I think it is, from the Great Britain team. It's a young Great Britain team that's been given a chance to compete here, to cut their teeth with the pros under the guidance of Keith Lambert, the manager. It's going to be a tough learning curve for them, but it's the ideal way to serve the apprenticeship.
Oh, it really is, and it's great to be able to do it in your home country. It certainly helps with the riders, the younger riders who are learning their trade, and as you say, under the guise of Keith Lambert, who better to be looking after them. And yeah, I don't think they'll be expecting too much results-wise from this race, but you never know in this race. Anything can happen, and often does.
And once the GC pattern becomes established and there are big gaps, then there's an opportunity for riders to slip away and be given the opportunity to bask in the kudos and maybe clinch a stage. That Great Britain team, the young team, there's some talent in there, very good on the track. And Simon Yates, who's number 166 in the lineup, won a stage in the Tour de l'Avenir last year, which is the sort of junior form of the Tour de France, when young riders used to look to win stages to impress director sportives who later might choose them as a stagiaire on the pro teams.
Yeah, this time of the year it's so important for those new younger riders.
So you're still looking here at the four who are still tapping it out in the lovely leafy countryside, but for how much longer are they going to stay clear? We'll take a commercial break. Strange style of riding, you see quite a lot of that these days, with the hands just resting on the bars. I always make a criticism, because if you were to hit a hole in the road, you'd go over the top.
You can. When you're riding on your own like this, it's not too bad, because he's got full vision of what's coming, but the riders who do it a little bit further back, it can really affect you. Here you can see the riders enduro racing, as we mentioned earlier, really starting to pile the pressure on now. It's a little bit open, and the chances are there's a crosswind coming, and which is why they're all riding in the left-hand gutter. The wind will be coming across from those open fields there on the right-hand side, as we see a crash now.
Well, crash, yep. I think what happened there, the grass verges are quite high, and well, there we are on the floor. It's one of the riders from the Node 4 Giordano team.
That is Rico Rogers there, their sprinter.
The little sprinter from New Zealand. Well, I think what might happen is, as the field fill the full width of the road, with the verges being high on the right, you could just catch a pedal and down you go.
Yeah, you can. We just see, if you look on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see the jersey go up in the air, and it's probably a touch of wheels, someone's braked, and there he goes, straight up.
Gymnastic movement almost. Fortunately, it was grassy, wasn't it?
Yeah, 4 points for effort.
And then as the peloton swung over to avoid, you can see the repercussions of that, where riders on the left were being forced off the road as well.
Well, this is the trouble. You go down like a deck of cards, don't you, here? And when all the riders are fighting for position, there's not a lot of room between the riders, and one go down and that's it. But this highlights the importance of why these riders do what they're doing now, riding up the front. I mentioned Liquigas, they're always up in and around the front, just trying to keep riders out of trouble. Crashes do happen up the front of the bunch, we do see it, but more often than not it's halfway down or further to the back. So if you can keep yourself out of trouble on these, especially on these smaller roads, all the better for the team.
That's quite a chase in front of them, isn't it? One rider has waited for Rico Rogers, and the pressure is being applied, so that's going to be a hard chase.
It really will, and it's a sort of effort that you can do without. I mean, we've seen it before with Robbie McEwen, for instance, in the Tour de France, he crashed very late on, he crashed or punctured, and then had to ride himself back onto the bunch, got himself there and took the victory. So the adrenaline can come through. But here, another crash yet again on the left-hand side of the bunch. Oh my word. We were expecting, we said there could possibly be crashes, but I expected it to be on the lead-in on these bends, but not this far out from the finish.
Let's have a look at this one then, Rob, see if we can tidy it up, see who's on the floor.
Narrow bridge, pinch point.
Yeah. They're getting twitchy as well, aren't they, now, as the pressure is being applied. Right, one of the young riders from the Great Britain team at the back there, I think that was Owen Doole, actually. But Endura are obviously deciding it's time for them to put some pressure on. Look at that.
Yep, there was two separate crashes actually. That one happened a little bit after this. This was the first crash here on this pinch point, and you can see there aren't many of the bigger teams here. There's one of the Garmin Sharp riders on the right.
Yeah. There's a lot been delayed here, and poor Sean Kelly as well. He's really gone down, hasn't he?
There we go. Yeah.
So that could be one of the lead-out men that could have helped Tyler Farrar. So a little bit of a thinning down now, the peloton at the back due to the crashes.
Yeah, Jonathan McAvoy here, Johnny Mac
Magnus
on the
Baxtad,
front.
big Magnus.
Magnus Baxtad there for his team UK Youth. And there we
Splinter tomorrow with a stage length that they've got tomorrow, which of course is 180 Ks, which is over 100 miles. There's plenty of chance of regrouping.
Yeah, there is. And again, these tight, narrow roads. And we mentioned the chances of slipping and thinking that the melted tar would play a part. But it's quite gravelly on some of these roads, obviously, with some of the weather that we've had. And it's been washed out of the fields and onto the road, can play havoc. So this long line of riders now all trying to make sure that they keep it upright. It's so difficult to do on these roads, especially when you've got a team like Enduro Racing piling the pressure on here. It makes it ever so difficult for these riders at the back.
They're not fazed by reputation, are they? I mean, they're putting Sky to the sword there. They're not afraid. They're prepared to stretch them out.
No, they are. I mean, this team has been racing now for the last 2-3 years on the continent, and this year especially, and with great effect. I mean, John Tierenlock here in second place, just behind, looks like Ian Bibby, who's leading out at the moment over the top of this climb, former mountain biker. John Tierenlock has had 3 wins, Tour Med, which is one of the big early season openers. Great performance there by him, and he really has come to the fore, and that is the reason why it looks like he's going to be leaving that team and going into one of these top teams.
8.5 kilometres to go.
Bernie Eisel just crouching down, trying to apply the pressure even more.
Sens, Rowe, Cavendish, and then right on the front,
Bernie Eisel. There he is.
Bernie Eisel, the man that guides Cav through the mountains. All the names, of course, that we are always talking about, and they're right here on our screen, racing on British roads. Now then, we're inside the concluding 3 kilometres of stage 1, and they are now on the Durham Road. They're going to come right down here, and then they're going to anchor right, and then head in towards the entrance to the park, and the pace really being applied at the front now. The little thin line beginning to form. There we go, 2 kilometres remaining, and you can tell that this is a perfect setup then by Team Sky for Cav.
Really are doing a good job. Again, in the left-hand gutter, the wind coming across from their right-hand shoulder, and here you can see Orica Greenedge now coming up to the front. That looks like Brett Lancaster here, following the motorbike, leading his team out.
That's put Sky on the back foot a little bit here, because it is very narrow and technical once they get into the park. So there'll be work then for the Sky boys to do. In the team of Orica Greenedge, you've got Bobridge, Lancaster, Hepburn, Howard and Kropis of Lithuania. No really big powerful sprinter there, but a lot of riders from the track background. Jack Bobridge, of course, holder of the world record for the 4,000 metre individual pursuit. Maybe he fancies his chances.
They probably do, and they've got strength in depth in that team, and they just need to make sure that they get themselves on the front. They've got the strength to do it.
1.5 kilometres to go. Wiggins, you can just see in those yellow sunglasses that he's worn ever since he won the Maillot Jaune. Cavendish has gone down, and there's a massive crash at the back there, and that's left Bradley Wiggins off the front. A brace of riders from the team of Sky are clear, and Cavendish is on the deck, and he is not a happy chap at all. I'm just wondering what happened there. Let's have another look at it. What happened there, Rob?
He either touched a wheel or his front wheel came off the side of the road and he got caught on the gravel. I don't know, but looks like he's talking to a rider. I think he probably got taken out. His front wheel got taken out from a rider alongside him.
So Cavendish then on the deck, and it looked as though the setup was perfect then for the Sky Riders. Is Farrar another one of the riders there as well on the floor as we wait for the arrival of the leaders on the line? And it left Bradley Wiggins just clear at the front. Is Wiggins going to get there's Farrar? So yep. Tyler Farrar's delayed as well, and it means now that Team Endura are on the front as they're coming towards the finish.
And is there another crash on that right-hand bend? But I think we're looking here at the crash, and it was, I think again, if it's Tyler Farrar for sure who's taken Mark Cavendish down.
Well, we said it was technical and we expected riders to fall as they're now approaching the finishing line. This is the funnel now that'll bring them up to the line. It's going to be a tremendous finish here, and it's still Sky in with a chance. Is that Hunt? You can't quite tell from here as they come to the line. Team Sky are going to take the stage victory despite Cavendish being on the floor. Let's have a look at it as they come over the line. Is that Hunt that crossed the line first?
No, I think it would probably be Luke Rowe, who would have been Mark Cavendish's last man, his lead-out man. Russ Downing was on the right-hand side. Looked like he got third place.
What a finish. So we'll tidy that one up for you when we get a closer look. But, well, drama here then in the closing stages as Sky had got it all set up for Mark Cavendish, and also Garmin Sharp were in the shake-up as well as the rest of the riders limp over the line here. What a finish that was.
Well, that really has put pay to a lot of people's GC contention after today, hasn't it? I think that looks like Ivan Basso there on the left-hand side, just changing position with his foot there on his shoe. I presume caught up in that crash. I mean, that crash was so far up the front of the bunch that it's just so unlucky for so many of the riders. There wasn't any more they could have done to stay out of trouble.
Well, it's a better idea.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
yes.
definitely Luke Rowe.
Luke Rowe on the right.
You can recognise there, yeah.
United Healthcare rider.
Had
just
some
coming
superb
in.
wins, yeah, in his career as Rowe. Comes from the track background, and is that Downing on the right?
Yeah, that's certainly Russell Downing. That's his style.
It is, burying himself as he comes up to the line as well. But there we are, yes, you can see it much clearly now. It is Luke Rowe celebrating in style that wins stage one here in the Norfolk Showground. What a finish. Drama as well, as the crowd are now going to welcome Mark Cavendish up to the line, the crash victim.
Big disappointment there for Cavendish. But on the flip side is Team Sky still got the victory.
Is that Basso as well? So Basso delayed?
No, I think Basso was delayed, but that's not him there. But I think Basso did roll in just behind. I mean, it happened so far up. I mean, Cavendish was obviously in the perfect position in those last couple of kilometres for this finish. So if you get caught up with Cavendish or just behind Cavendish, then you're going to be in an awful lot of bother.
Still they come in, and the ovation that Mark Cavendish is receiving is louder than the stage winner. He's not a happy chappy. No,
not at all. To have put the work in with yourself and the teammates around you, he knows this was a massive opportunity today to take another victory in that coveted rainbow jersey, the jersey that this is his last race wearing this jersey this week, because those World Championships next week in Limburg certainly isn't a course for him.
In the Yodel sprint competition, as I was saying, it means that the change at the top is still in position. Actually, there is the sprint for Duffield, as I was saying. So you can see Williams picking up the 5 points, and then the 5 points in the second sprint, Williams there again. So it means now with the 10 he's collected, he's only 2 points shy of the overnight leader, and that's Ronnie Mathias of Sao Association, the French team. And if they could stay clear for the final sprint at 130 kilometres, 50 kilometres from the finish, there's a good chance Williams could become the new leader in that Yodel sprint competition.
Yeah, quite possibly. And as you said there, Sao Association have missed the break today with their rider Matthias, which is a shame for them, but it allows them to sit back in, and they won't have too much pressure on them. Plenty more points to come in this race until we finish next week, next Sunday.
in Bibby, who we've seen a lot of shots of at the front with the Sky Riders. In fact, he's done a lot of work today in Bibby, but he's obviously been delayed there with that crash. But
yeah, it looked like actually he had gone down there with Jeremy Hunt from Sky. But looking at the riders' faces on the front of the peloton, the Sky Riders are having a little bit of a giggle between themselves, so it was possibly more of a comedy crash than a serious one. And both riders that went down there that we saw had gone down there picked themselves up, no problem.
Could be a subject for chat over dinner tonight.
Oh, it most certainly will. And I think the issue for Jez is every single one of his teammates were there and saw it happen.
Oh dear, oh dear. Well, there's Cavendish in the white, of course. That's the rainbow jersey, the most sought after jersey to wear in the professional peloton. He wears that for just another week before he goes to Valkenburg to try and successfully defend it. But it was interesting to see the rider in his wheel. That was Russell Downing.
Yeah, Russell knows. Every single rider knows who the wheel is that they want, and that was half of the trouble, I think, yesterday, and the issue that we had in that sprint, that everybody was fighting for Cavendish's wheel. And as soon as he went down, they were all the ones that went up the back of him.
So there are the 4-6 still at the front. That lead is coming down all of the time. Of winning the stage, but it's all about getting exposure for your sponsor.
Exactly, it's being out there. They're on the screens, they're in front of us. We've been talking about them. Not only that, as we mentioned before, it takes the pressure off their teammates, and psychologically, it's such a big boost if you know that you've got a rider from your team up in the break. Because if a group goes, 5-6 guys like this, and your team has missed it, then the onus is a little bit more on you to help bring it back. Not always the case, and not every team decides to take that up, but psychologically it certainly helps a rider. It always helped me if I knew that I had a rider up in the break. It means that we could concentrate and relax a little bit more and just get ourselves further to the finish.
So nice aerial shot here then of the field as they're beginning now to thread their way through the roads that'll line them up for the run to the finish. And the whole field nearly complete. You can just see the two nearly to the top of our picture on the right as they just wait for the arrival of the field, and all back together. So it's looking very much as though we're going to be treated to a spectacular sprint finish here in Knowsley Safari Park. So I suppose we've got to speculate on the big sprinters. Mark Cavendish, as we've mentioned throughout the commentary, I mean, he is the fastest man on the planet, no question about it, the Manx Express. And is he going to make it first this time? Is he going to stay upright? Let's hope we don't get any drama like we had yesterday. Express train on the left. Eisel, Hunt, Thnace, Wiggins, Rowe and Cavendish. Perfect positioning for them, as we're now only 18 kilometres away then from the finishing line here in stage 2 of the Tour of Britain. Just looking through the sea of faces there, Rob, to spot any of the other sprinters. There's Cav. Oh, another big crash here at the back. This is always what happens. And that looks like big Magnus Baxtad. It is Magnus Baxtad's caught up in this. And that's Briggs as well, Briggs of Raleigh, who's another big sprinter. He's on the floor, and the others seem to be in quite a lot of trouble.
Yeah, this is one of the problems. You get yourself further back down the peloton, and there's more and more chance of a crash. Jones there. And they're all going to have to shake this one out. They're going to have to jump around a bit and hop about just to clear the pain. Oh, they look awfully sore. The right-hand shoulder there.
Benefato.
He's gone down to get Benefato. He's already on a spare bike. He's had a torrid time.
Chance to see it again. Let's have a look. Well, it looks like just overcooking the corner there, catching the curb, and then of course the rest just following on. Big Magnus Baxtad, well, he was only delayed. He didn't actually fall, but looks like a shoulder injury here to the rider from Raleigh as he waits for a fresh bike. And what it has done, it's given Liquigas a chance here now to come to the front and take the pace setting on.
Yeah, I think they realise that the chances of attacks are starting to happen, so they're just applying a little bit more speed and a little bit more pressure. Here's Ivan Basso just coming through now. So maybe he isn't their protected rider and their team leader. I don't know, but he's just keeping himself out of trouble at the moment. Bernie Eisel there in second, and then Jeremy Hunt just coming through.
Trying to have a crack here on the front with a rider from the Spanish setup of Escatel Escadi. And is this going to be the winning move? Because behind, look, it's beginning to fracture significantly. Gold jersey well back in the line there, so this little attack has caused a few problems.
It hasn't. It's quite technical now. Fortunately, the roads look dry, so hopefully we won't have any issues of riders slipping on these bends.
There's the gap. It's not much. Slender advantage, but if you could just get into the par with that lead, and they have got Jan Barter as their team leader, NetApp, and Jan Barter was third overall in the Tour of Britain last year. So they're hanging on, aren't they? 2 kilometres to go. Here comes the cavalry charge from behind. It's beginning to form now as they chip away at the little advantage the brace of riders have established, and nobody seems to want to take it on. The Sky Rider palmed away the rider on his side. He said, look, I'm going to apply the pressure and bring them back, and that's exactly what's happening.
Here we go. We got Christian Nies now, the German rider from Sky, doing the chasing. He's brought it back. That's it. They've nullified it. Brad Wiggins there in second place. Luke Rowe. It looks like they're going to go for their plan A again and try and lead out Mark Cavendish for the win here today in Knowsley.
So it's a similar scenario to yesterday. Now then, it's all about staying upright, isn't it? The gold jersey on the shoulders then of Luke Rowe. He looks back to see that Mark Cavendish is still in his wheel, and we're getting closer to the finish now. Team Sky really beginning to apply the pressure. They've ignited the burners, and they're applying a lot of speed and strength at the front, and it's putting the rest here on the back marker.
This peloton now, they're in the park. Just the last few 100 metres to go now. Here they come through the gates.
So 1.2 kilometres to go. So the Flamme Rouge is just ahead of them. The pennant that indicates it's 1 kilometre to go. And they're hugging the side of the road here with Bradley Wiggins on the front. The Olympic gold medalist from London in the time trial, beginning to raise the tempo here. Luke Rowe then, the man wearing that IG Markets gold jersey, is in second position. There it is, the red pennant, 1 kilometre to go. 1
minute, one desperate minute of effort left in this peloton. Who is going to come away with this victory? We've got 3 bends left to go.
And right on the front with that look on his face of anguish is Bradley Wiggins. He really is beginning to apply the pressure now. When you are riding at that kind of tempo, nobody at all can come through. Wiggins swings over, job done. It's now the turn of Luke Rowe. Luke Rowe then is the man that is now beginning to put in the final touches to the lead out, ready for Mark Cavendish, and there's an attack on the left there to spoil the party, and Cavendish has got caught napping there. It's left Rowe on the front. Now then, Mark Cavendish is going to have to dig deep here and come round the 2 riders that have surprised him. I think he's got the firepower to do it as they're swinging for the run to the line now. Rowe looks back to see where Cavendish is. Here's Cavendish trying to come through, but he could be hemmed in, and it looks like Orica Orange, the Australian on the front, Orica Green Edge, as they come up to the line. Here comes Mark Cavendish. Oh, he's beaten into second place. So second place to Mark Cavendish. No, Cavendish got it on the line. Lee Howard second and Boy Van Poppel third. What a finish that was.
Well, it's coming up on our screens as Cavendish winning, but I don't know, it certainly didn't look like that. It looked like Orica Green Edge.
Yep.
But Cavendish, he was the second rider there behind Luke Rowe with still a few 100 metres to go, and he was far too far forward. He only had that 1 rider left, so he made sure that he slotted himself just a little bit further back. He allowed 3 or 4 riders to come in front of him just to help him with that lead out. That's what he would do. Was he able to do it on that finish? I don't know. It was very slightly uphill just those last few 100 metres.
I'd like to get another look at that. I think Lee Howard, from where we called it, looked as though he crossed the line first, ahead of Mark Cavendish. And then the computer shot up at the side to say that Mark Cavendish had got it, but I don't think that is right. I think it's Lee Howard that got it from Mark Cavendish, and also up there was Boy Van Poppel. Now, Boy Van Poppel finishing third there means he's going to get a 4-second time bonus. and that could help him, because remember, he started the stage today in second place, third place overall at 4 seconds back. So it's going to be interesting to see where the jerseys go. But I'd like to take another look at that. It looked like the rider then from Orica Greenedge was first. Here's another chance to look at it. On the right, it is Howard on the right. Rowe on the left looks back now. Then Cavendish can't get through here. Rob, just take a look at it.
Yeah, it's difficult to see here now. And as he comes through, just a little bit too far back, I think, and he didn't have that impressive sprint power that he normally has, whether he's still struggling from that big fall that he had yesterday. But saying that, Lee Howard, that's no mean feat to lose by Lee Howard.
In fact, you can see that he's got it. I don't know why the computer triggered to put Mark Cavendish in the lead on the line, but he tried valiantly to get through. But it was Lee Howard that took it, the Australian, riding on the Orica Greenedge. And what a victory that is. And also coming through there in the jersey of the Chain Reaction Cycles points classification was Van Poppel, who actually finished in 4th position, I think Van Poppel was. Or was he 3rd?
Hello and welcome to the fast-flowing River Esk. We're here in Dumfries for the finish of stage 3 of the Tour of Britain. Extraordinary. Fortunately, I've been given a rather patriotic umbrella, so I'm enjoying the warmth of that. Now, these are live pictures, and just to reiterate then the composition of this 5-man break. Yet another breakaway day for Rafa Condor's Christian House. He's picked up one of those, he's won one of those intermediate King of the Mountains points, so he now will lead that competition at the end of today. Another very aggressive ride from him. Rally GAC's Bernie Salzberg is there. He's won the other 2 of the King of the Mountains on the day. Pete Williams, another aggressive day in the saddle for him for Node 4 Giordana. He's of course looking to defend his leads in the sprints competition. 2 more intermediate sprints still to come, by the way. Wesley Crader of Vacances Soleil, they're a perennial favourite on the Tour of Britain. He's representing them in this breakaway, and Pete Hawkins, the young Irish rider of IG Sigma Sport. So that brings you up to date. We will bring you all the live action when we come back from a short break. See you then.
He's really on for real. 34 seconds. Well, it's pegged there. They're holding it.
Yeah, the black and green jersey of Enduro Racing also starting to come to the fore. But again, these 2 riders here, Creeder and Hawkins, really are working well together, aren't they?
Yep, they're not giving up. It's a serious scrap here now that's going on. Greasy corner, just gently. It's so easy, isn't it, to lay the bike over too much, and the machine just slides away from you.
It is. It's always an advantage in conditions like this to be in a small group like we have here. They have better vision of the road. They can see what's coming up. Be interesting to see if the camera stays on this peloton as they try and negotiate that right-hand bend. Fingers crossed for all of them. You can see a little bit of painted lines. Again, the slippy part. But it looks like all of them. The front there has got through okay, no problems whatsoever.
Yep, you're right. Don't want to see any fallers. Now then, Enduro coming through. Zach Dempster's there, just putting his shades on. Why is he putting his shades on when the weather's like this? Protect the eyes.
Just to try, yeah, it's the spray. The spray coming off of the rider in front of you. You get that in your eye and you're in all sorts of bother. But the flip side of that is your glasses on. Depending on your glasses and who you are, they can tend to steam up now and again. Hands, so it looks now like they get the help that they need, and this break here, Sepp Van Mark, I'm pretty sure it's all over for them pretty soon. They're going to be brought in now, that I'm fairly sure.
It's a Belgian and a Dutchman then here at the front, holding off the big field at the back. 3.3 kilometres to go. He looks back, the Belgian Van Mark, He said, I made the big effort to get up to the leaders. Now then, is it going to pay off? That camera shot actually foreshortens the distance, remember? It's still over 10 seconds, but you get the feeling that it's going to be all wiped away. 3 kilometres to go. Here come the field now.
Team Sky yet again take over from look like Hepburn from Orica Green Edge. Bradley Wiggins in that typical crouch position of his, trying to give as much as possible, with big Magnus Baxtad in his wheel, ready to apply the pressure for Team UK Youth.
So near yet so far. Just look at this, the advantage now is beginning to evaporate. They're getting nearer and nearer, the perfect time to make the catch, and the junction looks as though it's going to be made with just about 2.5 kilometres to go. He looks across Creda as much as to say, well, we tried valiantly but we couldn't do it. That's big Magnus Baxtad having a go.
That's it, 2.5 kilometres to go, and Maggie is putting the pressure in. He really is applying the pressure and the power and the speed.
Well, now then, look at this, the former winner of the Paris-Roubaix still got some fire in his belly here as he tries to go clear.
On this section of road
2 kilometres to go. Sorry, Rob.
No, I'm just saying, it looks like the peloton is starting to split up there on this tougher section of the road. It's just starting to creep up a little bit. Really is doing a good job, and there he has, he swung off, and that's it, that's his effort done for the day.
Now 1.7 kilometres to go, and it's Team Sky that really are beginning to take a stranglehold on the sharp end of the contest here. It's Cavendish right there turning the screw, and right up there with him is Isel, and also Bradley Wiggins is there in the mix. They're all looking after the interest of Mark Cavendish, but also coming through on the left of our screen looks like Zach Dempster to me of Endura.
It is, it's Dempster in the black and green for Endura. Where is his rider? Don't forget Russell Downing there. He's not in that typical green and black jersey. He's in the blue and white, because he is holding currently, he's wearing, there he is, in that chain reaction sprints jersey. Points jersey, sorry.
No, that's right, he's wearing the chain reaction cycles points jersey. He's Russell Downing, if you're looking for the familiar colours of Downing in the Endura strip. Now then, it's still Sky on the front. Now then, Endura starting to come through in the mix there. Is that Zach Dempster? A bit of nudging there, look at that, a bit of shoulder work going on. 1 kilometre to go, they've gone under the red pennant. Now then, look for the approach to the line here. Is this going to be a stage victory then for Team Sky?
It looks like Bernie Eisel on the front, ready to take over, is Luke Rowe, and here he goes. He shuts the road down. He's gone to the left-hand side of the road. He's got Mark Cavendish there on his wheel with 2 Orica Green Edge riders behind him, and Russ Downing is just moving back to 5th.
Sky on the head of the contest then, giving Cavendish the perfect lead out. Remember, Mark Cavendish won the stage here 12 months ago. Is it going to be Mark Cavendish again as they come into the finishing straight? Here comes Mark Cavendish, the Manx Express in the World Champs jersey. This is Cavendish at his best. Up to the line, the victory salute. Mark Cavendish takes the stage here in Dumfries. What a fantastic finish. Well, they got it absolutely spot on, didn't they, Team Sky? They worked hard, finally getting the 2 breakaway riders pulled back in the closing stages, and then Mark Cavendish with the perfect delivery.
Luke Rowe there, what a job he did there for Mark Cavendish. The perfect lead out, the speed he put in there for Cavendish meant that he rode away from the 2 Orica Green Edge riders trying to chase him. There, lots of congratulations from Bradley Wiggins, and the thanks there from Cavendish.
Lots of hugs on the line from the teammates of Mark Cavendish, and did you see that? He gave him a hug, and obviously he's very, very sore from the crash, and he punched his teammate. That's Mark Cavendish at his best, but that is Mark Cavendish, the trademark finish of the fastest sprinter on the planet. He replicates his finishing position of 12 months ago here in Dumfries White Sands, and everybody enjoyed that moment. It was a brilliant, brilliant finish by Mark Cavendish. The finishing line has certainly caused a lot of breaking up. Here we are, chance to look at it again. Cavendish on the far side looks back. Yes, that's it. Let me get those arms in the air. At long last, I have got my stage victory. And it's Orica Green Edge once again coming through into 2nd place. Quite sure who that is, actually. We'll
Welcome to Blackpool, where Rob Hales brings his family every year on holiday. I'm not entirely sure this is what the tourist office had in mind when they brought the Tour of Britain here, but this is what we've got. Let me just set the scene for you. This is half an umbrella that's disintegrating already. We're right here on the promenade. That's the North Pier over there, being kind of battered by 50-mile-an-hour winds and waves crashing into it. Right behind you there, you've got the tower. The tower's done this for 100 years or so, standing up against those winds. And there is our satellite hoist, bravely, manfully standing up against the wind and getting live pictures of the race off the Lake District as they battle these conditions. I have to say, has actually stopped raining. Hasn't been the case terribly often this morning, has it, Rob?
It's been a lot worse than this, hasn't it?
We're just beginning to dry out, at least in our lower halves. Anyway.
Weather conditions in Carlisle this morning for the start were pretty angry, to say the least. A blustery wind and heavy rain sweeping across the course. Quickly, 6 riders were in a bullish mood and went ahead of the main field. Composition of the group, you can see on the screen. Their lead quickly grew to almost 6 minutes. Danger man in this group was Gustafsson of UK Youth Cycling, because he was 17th overall at 17 seconds. This means he put the team of Orica Greenedge on the back foot, because remember they got the yellow jersey with Lee Howard that you are looking at on the screen. So Orica Greenedge, all the way in the early stages, forced to keep the tempo up. So see that the leading riders didn't go too far away. When they got to the first sprint of the day, and that was in Shap after 43 kilometres, it was Gustafsson that was setting himself up to try and grab the top points. Yesterday's stage winner, Mark Cavendish, well, he looked relaxed in the field, just riding along in the wheels, as other riders decided to dispense with the gloves and racing tapes as the first sprint approached. And it was Gustafsson that led it out on the left, being chased down there by Matt Cronshaw. Cronshaw trying to get on terms with Gustafsson, but it was Gustafsson that took the 5 points on the line ahead of Cronshaw. Didn't affect the overall situation, because Pete Williams of Node 4 Giordano had started the day on 27 points with a 15-point cushion ahead of Ronnie Mathies of Sao-So-Chazon. Now then, in the peloton, Bradley Wiggins and the rest of the Sky riders were just tapping along in the wheels, not concerned about the 6 riders that were still clear by over 6 minutes. And as we got to the top of the first climb at Shap Fell, a 2.1 kilometre ascent, it was Christian House, the king of the mountains, that topped the climb first, picking up another 6 points. He'd started in the lead, 5 points ahead of Utterson, and Utterson, not a member of the leading group, meant that he couldn't pick up any points today. So the lead for Christian House increasing all of the time. Still on the front of the peloton was the evidence of the black Racing Cape squad of Orica Greenedge, looking after the interests of Lee Howard, the man wearing the IG Gold Markets jersey. Sprint number 2 at Kendal after 66.7 kilometres. This time he got it spot on. Cronshaw, the teammate of Williams, giving the rest a slip to pick up the 5 points, and that took the pressure off Williams, of course, because it meant nobody else could nibble into his advantage. Cronshaw, it was over the line first, and it was Gustafsson that went over the line in second position. So that means that the breakaway group were now setting themselves up ready for the approach of the second big climb of the day, and that was Old Hutton, a 2.6 mile affair, or 4.2 kilometres, whichever way round you wanted it. And here once again, as they got near to the top, it was Christian House who was started today in imperious form, crossing the line first to pick up another 6 points. So it meant at the top of the second climb today that the overnight advantage of 5 points for Christian House had been increased to 17. So the man riding on the Rafa Conda squad in perfect form today, and looking to setting himself up for the King of the Mountains. Clinched 2 national road race titles. Devonian, so we can expect him trying to excel when he gets down into his part of the country on this race. But the conditions today really have been wicked, with the rain peppering down, and there is a blustery strong wind as well for them to contend with, which has forced them into echelon style racing at times. Another point to bring out here, Rob, very important point as well, is they're not actually wired here for sound, so there's no radio communication. So how do the riders communicate, and how can they work out where they are and where the information comes from?
Well, information comes from 2 places. There's a whiteboard where you can see now and again the motorbikes with a pillion passenger on the back, and they have a small whiteboard with a pen, and they write on for the break, they'll write on the time difference between them back to the peloton, so they'll know the advantage that they've got, and that will be relayed to them every few minutes or so as it changes, as it goes up and down. And back at the peloton, the same. They will normally have the composition of the group away, so they'll have the number of riders away, then their numbers, so that they can work out who it is and what teams are away, and then also the time difference.
It's a classic example there, just as you were talking about it, because Ronan McLaughlin actually took from his back pocket the little map of the course. They carry these, don't they, to know where they are?
That's right, they either have it in the back pocket, or sometimes some of the riders will have it written on their top tube or on the stem of their bike. So, for instance, someone like Christian House, he would most certainly have the summits, the starts and the summits of the 3 mountain climbs today, the Skoda Mountains points, so that he knows exactly how far he's got to go. He'll have his computer on the bike as well, so he can work it out, so he can match his effort accordingly. As we can see, Jack Bobridge matching an effort with the rest of his teammates. Well, this is classic flatland racing that we're seeing here, and the wet conditions have only added to that. As we see, still plenty of people out on the side of the road. The schools have come out. The pain etched across McLaughlin's face there, showing the effort that he's putting in, and we can see the trees there on the left-hand side, just emphasising that wind that these riders are having to try and ride through. Again, Jonathan Tierenlock taking his turn on the front. I feel he really should be sat in behind in the wheels. The selection's been made now. He's gaining time on a lot of guys who will be looking for that overall GC contention at the back end of this race later on in the week and at the weekend.
10 kilometres to go. There we are. The sporting handshake, and they have capitulated. Here come the peloton, sweeping up the final 2 survivors of a break of 6 that have been clear nearly throughout the whole of the day. And those final 2 survivors, Dan Craven and the Irishman Ronan McLaughlin. So I was going to say it's status quo. That's hardly the case, because we've got this leading group, around about 30 riders now, that are going away from the residue of the peloton. This morning then, 94 took the start, so there are 60-odd riders losing a lot of time here as we look at Russell Downing crouching down on the front, a real good sprinter, twice the British road race champion, past winner of the Tour of Ireland. Downing could be in with a chance here in the sprint, but of course when you've got Mark Cavendish there, everybody's on the back marker.
Yeah, Mark Cavendish just on the left-hand side of the screen, just going out of our shot now. He's got his teammates up there with him.
1.8 kilometres to go. It's a little bit greasy here on the promenade, but the fact that it is dead straight is going to be a great advantage for the field. Still on the front, really turning the screw, is Sky.
They really are applying the pressure, aren't they? Russell Downing there in 2nd place. Jonathan Tierenlock in his wheel from Endura Racing, and then we've got Bradley Wiggins in 4th.
And then Luke Rowe.
Luke Rowe will be the man to set up Mark Cavendish. As we see, it looks like one of the American teams there, Garmin Sharp, trying to come up, getting in on the action, but Bradley Wiggins there, he's closed the road down on the right-hand side. This is perfect at the moment for Mark Cavendish there in 3rd place.
He wouldn't allow that, would he? The intruder was trying to get into the train, and Wiggins just rode across and palmed him off and said, "You're not going to spoil our lead out." Coming up now to the red pennant, the lantern, the 1 kilometre to go sign, the red kite, and it's Wiggins on the front here, really beginning to turn the screw, and Luke Rowe is in 2nd position, and look out for Mark Cavendish. Cavendish is going to be trying to come through to get involved in the final chase.
Lee Howard has just come up on the left-hand side there of Cavendish and got in front. Cavendish has allowed him to get in front there. He needs wheels. He wants people to be in front of him. It looks like Wiggins there. He's just gone off the front, and now we're starting the sprint, and it's Luke Rowe on the front.
Luke Rowe is the man on the front, but now look at this then, head-to-head as they look for the line. It's the Australian on the left, but on the line it is Cavendish again. Mark Cavendish takes it right on the line. Well, The challenge came, didn't it, then, from Lee Howard, but it was Mark Cavendish that had the electric power to deny the Australian Lee Howard his second stage victory. Instead, it's Mark Cavendish, the world champion, that took the second stage victory of the Tour. And will that be enough now to put him into the IG Markets gold jersey with the 10-second bonus?
Oh, I think that's going to be happening. My, that was starting to get a little bit messy from the shots we saw there. United Healthcare and Garmin Sharp all trying to get in on the action, trying to muscle in there on Bradley Wiggins, and Luke Rowe trying to set Mark Cavendish up. Move back, and he allowed actually Lee Howard to get in front.
It is interesting there, Rob, just how far Luke is in front of the bunch there, and that's the second time we've seen that move from him. What is that? Is that a slight lack of experience?
No, I think it's just the way it is. Once he's set and he's got his lead out timed, he just does his effort, and then it's up to Cavendish to ride in behind him and just work it out for himself, which he has done there. And what he did basically, he put the pressure on Lee Howard. Howard had to take up the chase, and that was where he used his speed and his strength, and he just ran out of legs at the end. And Cavendish, in the end, Mark, he was able to cross the line with ease.
So that's a question of Mark Cavendish improvising there slightly with that gap of developing to Luke Rowe. I mean, of what use is it to Mark if Luke Rowe gaps him like that?
No, it's fine. It's fine, because what it does, he makes the other riders have to chase.
Right.
Because let's face it, if they don't chase and Luke Rowe takes the win, then he takes the victory for the team, and also those 10-second time bonuses, which he dearly needs for the GC. So it's a win-win situation for Sky there.
Yes, I understand that now.
You're looking here at the two leaders in the Tour of Britain. This is stage 5, taking the riders from Trentham Gardens through to the finish in Stoke-on-Trent, 147 kilometres. The two leaders at the back here from Liquigas is the famous Italian Ivan Basso, twice the winner of the Tour of Italy, and he's got with him for company from Rally GAC, Bernie Salzberger. Now, the break was 3 strong because Bartosz Husarski of Team NetApp was with them, but he's dropped off the pace, and these two now are 1 minute and 41 seconds ahead of this group that's still being led by Team Sky. There's been a lot of action, believe me, so far. We've had all the 3 sprints in the Yodel sprint competition, and we've had 2 of the climbs tidied up as well. So just one more big climb to come today, and that's the Tortuous Ascent of Gun Hill, which is a first category climb, and that comes after 117 kilometres of racing. So it's going to be an interesting grand finale, and the 2 riders working very hard to stay clear. But the problem is here, as you can see, Salzberger is not as strong as Ivan Basso. So now the Italian going ahead on his own with 52 kilometres of racing left, and really that's a very big ask for him to stay away through to the finish in Stoke. So he could have done with some more company. Basso under pressure now to try and stay ahead. Well, I'm joined now by Rob Hale, just about getting his breath back. So, Rob, this really is not the kind of move that Basso would have wanted. He needs company, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. He's a strong climber, one of the strongest climbers in the world, but his time trialing ability is not the best. So he certainly could do with a partner or two in today.
He's 32nd at 44 seconds. So this is the major move of selection of the Tour of Britain.
These 7 riders now. Is this the group that we're going to see come into the finish here? If it is, who is going to take the spoils today?
Well, that's Caruso actually there of Liquigas. Vos, Tiernan Locke, and then the 2 Frenchmen, Koppel and Galland. And there's another rider actually in this group as well. And that looks like Nathan Haas, the Australian to me, on the Garmin Sharp team.
Well, Caruso, he's at 27 seconds, along with Tiernan Locke.
The back group still tapping it out here. getting a huge ovation, a sympathetic round of applause really for Mark Cavendish as he works his way towards the summit of Gun Hill. 26 kilometres to go for him. Jumping clear of the group. Well, can he do it? It's a monumental effort by him. He's certainly amplifying his intentions to lift his arms with the victory salute. He's absolutely fired up here, totally inspired, attacking the closing kilometres here with unbridled passion. The leader, Mark DeMar, can he win the stage?
Well, we can see here his teammate Boy Van Poppel. He's able to sit in the wheels. He's not having to do anything.
Less than 2 kilometres to go now. Well, come on, you almost want to cheer him on, don't you, Mark DeMar? It's such a brave effort. Now, here comes an effort off the front of the main field by the two riders from Endura. They're beginning to raise the tempo a little bit. That's Voss on the front and Tiernan Locke in second position. They can't pull this man back. It's gone up. It's 15 seconds now. So he's totally inspired, driven on here. He's amplified his intentions to the rest. And I tell you what, it's looking like it's going to pay off.
Well, not far now. Within the next 2 minutes, we're going to find out who it is who's going to take this stage. At the moment, it looks like Mark DeMar here, the national champion from Carousel, riding for United Healthcare, is going to take that victory. But he's going to have to keep doing what he's doing. He needs to keep pressing on. Don't look behind you, just keep going.
I think he deserves the victory, this brave effort. It should pay off. I think he's going to conquer the opposition here. He's tamed them, and it looks very much to me as he's going to be the man that'll triumph. What an effort by him. Stellar performance then by the leader here, Mark DeMar, who's United Healthcare. He will see ahead of him. There it is, the red kite. Now, 1 kilometre to go for the leader, Mark DeMar. Surely they're not going to bridge 18 seconds in 1 kilometre.
How much does this rider have left in his legs? He's going to need an awful lot because the road starts to go uphill in a minute. Here you can see the riders just behind him. 18 seconds is the advantage that Mark DeMar has on these riders, as we see the Enduro rider going out the back now, Voss.
Yeah, Voss has done the job well to help Jonathan Tiernan Locke, and he has now sat up as the rest of the group now go under the banner. 1 kilometre to go. They are not going to catch Mark DeMar. He's going to be the leader here today. He deserves the victory. He can see ahead of him now the finishing funnel. He really is gulping in the air and gripping those bars, finding every last ounce of energy.
The barriers here he's gone through, the safety barriers that he's certainly going to need as he comes up into the town centre. Here we go, Jonathan Tiernan Locke on the front of the group, what's left of the peloton.
As we come back to the leader, Mark DeMar, he's now approaching then the final metres of this stage. It racks up again here. There's a little sting in the tail. This is where it ramps up towards the run for the line. Now then, what's he got left? He looks to be pretty strong to me as an attack off the front of the group here to try and catch the leader in the closing stages. I think they're going to run out of distance, and it really would be a shame if he didn't take the stage, because he's been the man of the match in the closing stages. The crowd are loving it. They're giving him maximum support. He looks back anxiously. Mark DeMar now fighting on for the line. He can't come quick enough. Is he going to win the stage here? Stage 5 of the Tour of Britain, right here in Hanley. 147 kilometres of really tough terrain, and he's got it. He's going to raise his arms here. He's already celebrating. Look at this. Mark DeMar gives the victory salute. The rider from United Healthcare wins stage 5 of the Tour of Britain. He is absolutely delighted. Now what about the sprint from behind? We're waiting now to see the arrival of the group behind, to see who can get second and third. Here they come. On the front, it looks like the big fella. Yeah, or was it? No, it looks like Boy Van Poppel. Boy Van Poppel looks as though he got second place there for a 6-second bonus. And how important will that be? Because he started the day at 14 seconds back on the overall leader. But let's face it, the stage belonged to Mark DeMar of United Healthcare. What a courageous effort, and the smile tells you everything. And there is the man that I think got the sprint for second. We'll see another replay of that. He was actually sprinting at the line against Sepp van Mark. It looked close. We'll see it again. But celebrations here for the victor. What a finish that was. He's a chance to see when he took off. He looked across, and there was a reaction from the Liquigas rider. It looked as though he wasn't going to persist with the effort, but then Mark DeMar decided, yes, I'm going, and it paid off. What a profitable move that was, Rob.
Well, the big winners today, certainly United Healthcare on two fronts. Here the rider, Mark DeMar with the stage, and boy Van Poppel doing himself no harm whatsoever for that IG Markets gold jersey.
Well, look at this, Magnus Baxtad on the front of the peloton already trying to get clear. Well, he lives in South Wales. That's where he's destined to arrive today in Caerphilly. So he'd dearly love to try and nail the stage. And at the back, we've got riders from Enduro Racing.
Yep, Ian Bibby that was on the back there. As we see Marcin Biablocchi there, Node 4 Giordana just pressing on the front. Graham Briggs as well, Rally GAC.
Also caught a glimpse of the rider in green from An Post as we see Christian House, the leader of the Skoda King of the Mountains. Now, obviously, he's dead keen to get clear because he wants to try and get more points in his pursuit of securing the overall lead in the King of the Mountains contest. He's Baxtad at the front, and tucked in at the back is the rider from An Post. Well, here's Graham Briggs. Well, he doesn't want his racing cape anymore, and further things he's not going to carry either. He's obviously aware of just how tough it is. Well, we're crossing the marker there, 1 kilometre to go to the first in the Yodel Sprint competition, and that comes in Kerry after 25 kilometres. And on the front of the peloton, it is the team of Orica Greenedge.
Yeah, Orica Greenedge taking up the chase. That is their role today. Lee Howard still in the IG gold jersey as race leader, as we see all 6 riders all taking it in turns evenly just to set the pace on the front.
The road stretching out in front of them, and the riders in this group that are going away, none of them are a threat to the overall leader in this competition, Pete Williams of Node 4 Giordana, so he's going to be pleased with that. There is the line, and it looks as though they're just going to ride through it here, and it looks like the teammate then of Pete Williams, although Briggs looks as though he's going to have a go here, but he's too late. So first over the line is Marcin Biablocchi, and Graham Briggs coming through in second place.
And Biablocchi there just looking after his teammates' lead in that competition, and that is Peter Williams.
There is the result. 2 names missing from that caption are Gilibert and Craven. They make up the 6 who are away. And Locke is doing all the work here because he's the man that's got the most to gain, so in that case you would probably favour Koenig for the sprint then, for the stage victory, but of course it's the amount of time that he's putting into the gold jersey, and at the moment you can see 34 seconds back then to Lee Howard.
Yeah, I'm sure Jonathan Tiernan Locke would desperately like to win this stage, but I think that's going to play second fiddle today behind Leopold Koenig. I would imagine the work that Tiernan Locke is doing is all for general classification, all for that IG gold jersey and those valuable seconds bonuses that he will get. First or second, he's going to take some points, he's going to take some seconds, valuable seconds.
Koenig is actually back in 15th place overall at 5:30, so he's not going to affect the positions, and in fact the other riders in the overall standings here will still stay up there in contention. It's just a slight rejigging of the top 6, and the man that will gain the most is going to be, of course, Jonathan Tiernan Locke, who is 6th at the moment. He's going to elevate himself up into the number 1 position. He knows how important this is now, and he's piling on the pressure, pouring on the coals as he tries to gain every single second that's going to see him take the overall lead. Koenig is not contributing, he's just got the stage victory in mind. Edmondson's going to get picked up here. Yep, 2 riders from the Liquigas team there, so they are helping with the pace setting, and they're going to pick Edmondson up. So the under 23 Great Britain rider has been pulled back.
Yeah, desperate time there for Edmondson. Basso it is who's done the damage, and the reason being he's pressing on because look who's out the back, look who's lost contact. It's the race leader Lee Howard there in the gold, and Van Poppel as well.
Clark's with him as well. And we've also got Van Poppel, good spot there, Rob, so there's going to be a lot of time lost here. Well, it's seconds, but it's so valuable because this race is being fought right down to the vital seconds. And now on the front is Koenig. Koenig has decided now to contribute to the pace setting, helping Jonathan Tiernan-Lock, and that of course is going to give the rider from the southwest an opportunity here of further increasing his lead.
Yeah, I'm unsurprised now that he's coming to work to do some of the pace setting here. Tiernan-Lock has done so much. Pretty sure he's still going to come away with that victory, but who knows? Tiernan-Lock, he's inspired at the moment.
Certainly is, as the rest of the group are now making their way as well towards the finish. Closing stages now. You can see how near we are to the finish. There it is, the red kite, 1 kilometre to go, and we've got this brace of riders at the front, Jonathan Tiernan-Lock and Leopold Koenig.
Soon be taking the right-hand turn into the finish straight here. Just having a little discussion here, desperately urging Koenig to come through. Not willing, he wants the victory.
And here is the group that they've gone away from. So it's Leopold Koenig of Team NetApp versus Jonathan Tiernan-Lock of Endura Racing for the stage victory. But for Jonathan Tiernan-Lock, the spoils are far greater, because the IG Markets gold jersey is going to wait for him, and he needs to keep the pressure on at all time. Looks like the rider from the Team NetApp is going to make an early strike for the line here, and the stage victory. They're into the finishing funnel now. That's exactly what we expected. So it's Koenig that's going to come up here to take the stage victory. He takes the stage victory. Second over the line is Jonathan Tiernan-Lock. And there are the celebrations then for the stage winner, Leopold Koenig, who rides on the NetApp team. He's the arrival of the next group, and look at the sprint here. It's being led out by Nathan Haas, the Australian, who's on the Garmin Sharp team. He started the day in 4th place overall, and that bonus will be good enough to lift him into 3rd place. There's the winner of the stage, that's Leopold Koenig, and here they are. The IG Markets gold jersey holder is Lee Howard, but he's going to surrender that now because Tiernan-Lock has done enough to become the new leader.
King Leopold taking the win outside Caerphilly Castle. He jumped Tiernan-Lock, rode for home, and frankly it was never in doubt. 2 seconds separated the first pair over the line, and there were 10 riders in the chase group, led home 19 seconds down by Garmin's Nathan Haas. Damiano Caruso in 4th, with Luke Rowe behind him in 5th. A good ride, by the way, from Great Britain's Simon Yates. Good afternoon and welcome to live coverage of Stage 7, the penultimate stage of this year's Tour of Britain. We are down in the bottom left-hand corner of the country.
Today's stage 13 seconds, and he took 3 seconds back in that first sprint, so he's now down to 10. The way he was riding yesterday, I was really surprised how he stuck in there, so it's not over yet.
There we have the first 4 riders over the line. Lee Howard, Russ Downing and Boy Van Poppel all picking up time there, 3:21 seconds respectively. And Pete Williams picking up a point in the sprints competition there too.
Yeah, that Yodel sprints competition looks fairly done and dusted for him. He's only competing against his 2 teammates for that. So either way, it's going to go to Node 4 Giordano, that's for sure.
Okay, now the breakaway, some very interesting names today. There are 10 men up the road. Initially there were only 5. They featured some big hitters, didn't they, Rob?
Well, they do. You've got Sanchez and Urtazan from Escatel, and it's an odd one actually, because Urtazan, second in the King of the Mountains behind Christian House, didn't even contest any of the points yesterday, and today he's got himself up the front, and he's trying to go for maximum points obviously today to try and bring that back. So that is an odd one. But Basso, yet again, Basso's up there. So we've got a really good group there. Strong riders on the flat and some really good climbers.
And everybody's favourite Curaçaoan rider is in the group as well, isn't he?
He's there. Mark DeMar's got himself up there yet again. What a race he's having. But yeah, it's going to be fairly animated, and the back end of this race is going to be tough. So I'm really looking forward to this one.
Now yesterday we had Pablo Urtasun has picked up points on the road. This is the final of the 3 categorised climbs you're looking at now, and vast, I mean Tour de France style crowds there to see him pick up another 10 points. 23 he's picked up on the road there, but Rob, the story of those pictures is look at the crowds.
It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, we were here early this morning and already there was more people at this finish than we've seen any other place. Obviously
10 men powering away, but the big question is, what will they be able to do about it? This will be a thrilling stage, whatever happens, and for John Tiernan-Lock, it could well be decisive. Join us after a short break.
So 10 riders still up front. They're advantage is dwindling somewhat now, just over 2 minutes between themselves and the peloton. And of course it was up well over 4 minutes. It's extended a little bit now in the last few kilometres as the peloton have throttled back a little bit and are controlling this gap nicely with these 10 riders up front, just over 50 kilometres from the finish. They've been over the big mountains, but I can tell you what, this is a hard, long, rolling course, and there's plenty of other opportunities to produce a little bit of sting in the legs. Let's have a little reset of who's in the break. Samuel Sanchez is there, former Olympic road race champion. His Euskaltel teammate Pablo Urtazan has made it into the break and is mopping up some important Skoda King of the Mountains points. Ivan Basso is there for Liquigas, the much storied famous stage race rider from Italy and Liquigas to be specific. Mark Demar, Jerome Koppel, Marcin Białoblocki, Bernie Sulzberger, Jan Barta and Ronan McLaughlin. Those are the 10 riders up front. Further back in the peloton, Jonathan Tiernan-Locke looks very, very comfortable and blowing a little bit, but I don't think that he looks a little bit concerned of face, but that's perhaps his default look in terms of any pain and suffering. Well, he hasn't really started to feel it yet, but I've no doubt that he's going to get involved in the shake-up as this race winds its way towards the finish in Dartmouth. It's absolutely stunning weather, enormous crowds, beautiful roads. Well, it's perfect for stage racing today, and all the riders have certainly got involved. There was hectic action in the first hour. 5 riders up front were joined by another 5. They split briefly and then came back together again. And those 10 riders have worked well together. Well, 9 riders, I should say. We haven't seen too much action from Jan Barta, tending to ride along at the back of the group. Whenever the road has tended to rise, Marcin Białoblocki has also slipped a little bit back towards the tail of the group. Not perhaps the top climber in the group, but certainly a very, very strong roadman for Node 4 Giordana, and doing a very strong ride today. These 10 riders working in unison now, just over 2.5 minutes between themselves and the peloton behind. Team NetUp showing towards the front, but the bulk of the work up front has been done, of course, by the Enduro Racing squad of Jonathan Tiernan-Locke. And he has been well policed, well marshalled, and they have set a tempo that has been difficult for some of the riders at the back of the peloton, because they're closing that gap to the riders up front. Remember, there's 9 riders working in tempo at the front of this field, at the front of the race, and of course you've only got about 4 or 5 in the bunch behind, so it's a really, really tough day out for the peloton, for Endura in particular. Graham Briggs at the back for Team Rally, wearing the distinctive red numbers, and that denotes the winner of yesterday's most aggressive rider competition, sponsored by Rouleur. So he got the wheel of cheese, local produced dairy products, and well earned it was indeed after a long day out in the break, and managed to retain enough energy to have another crack and stay clear for a little while longer with Jonathan Tiernan-Locke on that occasion. Pablo Urtazan slips to the back of the break as he waits for service from his Euskaltel team. 2 Euskaltel riders in the move today, so that's a nice opportunity for Urtazan to take top points, which indeed he has done across the 2 hills that these 10 riders have been up front for, the Cat 1 ascents of Maryvale and Coffinstone. Pablo Urtazan taking top points on both of those occasions, and narrowing the gap between himself and Christian House at the top of the Skoda King of the Mountain competition. Christian House still retaining a decent lead, but now inside 20 points, so he perhaps need to get a little bit involved. So these 10 riders working in unison, just 10 riders up front and just under 2.5 minutes between themselves and the peloton behind. It's being controlled well by the Enduro Racing team of the overall race leader wearing the gold IG jersey. That's Jonathan Tiernan-Locke, and he's just lined up behind his riders. getting a little bit of assistance from Team NetApp, but mostly it's being left to the Enduro riders, and the one most prominent of all of those so far today has been Russell Downing.
Yeah, Russell Downing there, the one with the red, white and blue stripes on his sleeves there in second place, denoting the former national road race champion. Doing an awful lot of work. Had a big fall a couple of days ago, but managed to get himself back upright. A little bit skinned and grazed, as we see the back of the peloton here.
That's big, man.
Because none of these guys up here will make any difference whatsoever to the general classification, and that IG gold jersey that's held by the Enduro racing rider.
Jonathan, of course, well, what an occasion, what a moment for him, wearing the gold jersey on home roads with the huge crowds out to see him. Well, this is it's career-defining stuff for this young rider who really is emerging into the spotlight and is a rider for the future in a big way.
He is. He's in his late 20s now, but last year I think was probably a bit of a surprise. Certainly surprised a lot of us watching the race from the outside, but the way that he rode and then the way that he's gone on this year, Tour Med, one of the big season openers in France, down in the south of France, and he took that one fairly convincingly as well.
Took continental racing by storm. Yeah,
he did.
Tour du Haut-Var and Tour Mediterranean.
Yeah, and I think the talk was as well that the guys out there for enduro racing were getting bullied about and jerseys pulled and what have you, which is part of the course really. It's quite usual for what is considered the smaller teams coming in and mixing it with the bigger teams. And at the start of the week, Team and Lot was one of those who was getting shouted at and pushed out of the way and jerseys pulled. But I think that was probably part of what he used in his psyche. He certainly did, and he thought, you know what, I'm not having any of this.
And he's earned his stripes on the continent now. I think people are taking his wheel rather than trying to get ahead of him.
Yeah, most definitely.
Climbs,
and on the climb, they're not only trying to take his wheel, they're trying to stick on it and stick with him. And there was only one who was able to do that yesterday. And that was Leopold Koenig from NetApp.
Yeah, he's got a fantastic motor, there's no doubt about it, and this rider is emerging at 27 years of age. But let's not forget, he suffered from Epstein-Barr virus for 3 seasons, really knocked him out in a big way, went to college, pretty much was an ex-cyclist, and then once the virus was clear, he was able to come back to it, and he's shown what he had all along that he never had an opportunity to show.
No, and it's a great shame for him, because obviously to miss that chunk, it's not just the time that you've got where you have the illness. There's also 1, sometimes 2 years afterwards as well, where you get a little bit of lag and start to come back. So otherwise, if he'd have missed out on that illness and come through 3-4 years ago, when he was early mid-20s, then who knows what kind of a rider he could be. But incredible
big years in his career, but it seems pretty much certain at this stage that he's going to be leaving Enduro next season. And well, the hot rumour is he's off to Sky.
That is the rumour. I don't think anything is confirmed as yet, but he's certainly moving on. And I think Enduro Racing as well will be moving up the ranks as well with their merger. By all accounts, with this team here on the back.
That Team NetApp and Enduro are going toe-to-toe for stage wins and everything else this week, but they will become as one, as seems likely for next year, and it'll be interesting to see. I think it's probably likely to be an expanded roster, but decisions will have to be made about how the composition of that roster, and it will certainly be interesting to see exactly how many of the current Enduro riders will make it into that squad next year.
Yeah, it will be. I'm sure part of the negotiations there are that a certain amount of the riders will go through to that amalgamated team, and no doubt 1 or 2 of them from this squad here this week will be part of that.
This squad currently is at continental level officially in terms of the hierarchy of UCI competition, and Team NetApp is at pro continental level, so that will allow Enduro to move up to the next rank.
Yep, and it will certainly put Enduro themselves in the marketplace where they want to be in Europe. Obviously a big brand, Scottish brand, cycle clothing, but they'll be pushing for bigger market in Europe, and cycling is obviously one of the biggest adverts in Europe.
And pitching for the potential to take part in Grand Tour competition.
Yes, they are.
Looking for wildcards there.
Yeah, and British British cycling brands are certainly coming to the fore, and Rafa as well. It's unsure what's happening to this Rafa Condor squad as we see it at the moment, because there's also talk of Rafa moving their sponsorship, their clothing sponsorship, onto another one of the bigger European teams. I don't know if we're able to mention that at the moment, but certain black, white and blue squad.
Well, that would be interesting, and yeah, the rumour mill is hot about what's happening with Rafa and all brands associated with British cycling, and indeed Rafa's an extraordinary brand, isn't it? Extraordinarily successful company, and one that's very much developing. No Rafas in the break at the moment, though. 2 minutes and 35 seconds as it hovers between themselves and the bunch. 10 riders up front. Samuel Sanchez, the 2008 Olympic champion in Beijing, is joined by his teammate from Euskaltel, that's Pablo Urtazan. Ivan Basso's up there for Liquid Gas. Mark Demar, United Healthcare rider. Jerome Koppel has made it into it. The top French time trial rider, Marcin Bialobloki of note for Giordana. Bernie Sulzberger, prominent on the King of the Mountains at the Tub of Maryvale and Covenstone. Finished second on both occasions there. He's the man from Raleigh, the man from down under. Jan Barta has been keeping a watching brief towards the back of the group for most of it, although I see he is starting to make his way up to do the odd turn now. Ronan McLaughlin is there for An Post Sean Kelly. Second time he's made it into the break this week. And he'll be going for that wheel of cheese that he won one earlier in the week, won a Combativity Award.
If we're looking at, say, one of the bigger, stronger teams like Team Sky, then they would have the horsepower to do that. But obviously Team Sky lost Bradley Wiggins, which was a big disappointment for them, going out with illness, and their man Christian Nice in 7th at 1:34 really did need a rider like that to help in the dying moments of races.
Is 1:34 I mean, with Christian and Kinaes, with the incredible talent that he brings to it, he wouldn't necessarily have said that he's a climber.
No, yesterday was a difficult one to pick. I felt that he could have stayed up the front yesterday, but as it was his teammate Luke Rowe.
Wow, isn't this absolutely stunning scenery? It's a beautiful setting as they work their way through Devon, and riders of course won't have much opportunity to enjoy it, but I can tell you what, it really is an absolutely beautiful parkour today. Have you ever actually been able to take in the scenery in a race? Have you ever been grovelling on someone's wheel for half an hour and then looked up and said, oh my god, it's actually gorgeous out there? It's
rare, if ever. These riders will be concentrating on the wheels in front of them, and it is true, we take the races through such beautiful scenery across Europe, and it's more for the viewers back home to see. All you
ever see is the hotel?
Yeah, it's the riders, it's not something that they particularly notice, and quite often a rider will see something, mention it later on back at the hotel. Oh, did you see such and such? And the other riders, no, I had my head down. And one of the riders with his head down today is the rider here from UK Youth, team leader Magnus Baxtad. Great day he had out there yesterday, but
it's a real Indian summer in Magnus Baxtad's career, isn't it? I mean, he had retired, he had back problems, from his accident, and I mean, I'd imagine he's really enjoying being back racing.
And this is where he wants to be back, at this level of racing. He rode so many years on the continent for the top teams. Obviously, Paris-Roubaix winner himself, Tour de France stage winner, numerous Grand Tours that he's ridden, and then the last few years he's spent back predominantly in the UK riding for smaller teams, and UK Youth is one of those growing teams.
And what an asset to have his experience and knowledge.
Extremely so. You for the younger guys on that squad, Magnus can pass on so much information, and he's one of those riders I know who does actually live now for that information and passing it on. So many do keep it to themselves, and
right.
You can learn the hard way, but he's not there. That's what he wants to do, and that's what he lives for.
Right, he's open and sharing. Graham Briggs at the back of the group, wearing the red numbers of the ruler most aggressive rider from stage 6. And Bernie Sulzberger up the front for Rally. At the front of the group now. They've pegged that advantage back to just over 2 minutes. One suspects that things are getting a little bit serious. Of course, as the road goes up and group behind might be going down, the things can concertina a little bit and then extend again. And of course, behind, they're desperately trying to control and manage that gap and then unleash the big guns towards the back end. Still, there's 36 kilometres left in this race, so we're getting towards the pointy end, getting towards the business end of this stage.
Is at the front of the race. That's often where the cameras are, and we comment on how good some of these guys are at descending, but actually it's the guys back in the gruppetto. A lot of the sprinters, in fact, their style of riding suits descending. And I know in some of the races, the sprinters group, the gruppetto, the laughing group, whatever you call it, often descend a couple of minutes, 2.5 minutes, in fact, quicker than the front group. And they're the guys who really are riding on the rivet and pushing the boundaries of descending. But we often don't see that because, as I said, the cameras are always up front. And those guys can often descend at their leisure within reason.
Yeah, and of course, look at them absolutely flying down this descent. The group stretches out.
Yeah, over 90 kilometres an hour we've seen from some of the riders and the talk. Quick, steep descents in the Tour of Britain, and these helicopter shots really do give you the perspective of how quick these guys are going.
Yeah, interesting, you mentioned the gruppetto. I don't think we give enough tribute and credit to the sort of ride they end up having to do.
Yeah, it's been mentioned a couple of times, especially on the Stoke stage, where certain riders have come in. They came in 11 minutes down. How did they lose that much time in the last few K? Well, for the riders who aren't going for the gold jersey here, they're just going for stage wins. If they come in 2 minutes down, 4 minutes down, or 11, 12 minutes down, it makes no difference to them. As long as they make the time cut off, that's all they're looking forward to, and just getting themselves into the finish and just saving energy for the next day and for the sprinter stage, because there are races within races here, and we don't see all these riders all trying to get across the line in first place. As we see here, teamwork being done. Sanchez done an awful lot of work. Here we can see, and the work he's put in, he's just having to have a little bit of a stretch there. Yeah. Sanchez just stretching out his quads.
Been a long day, been a long week, and he's starting to feel a bit tender.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's gone down as well earlier on in the week. I know he's lost a bit of time on a couple of stages, so could have been caught up in one or two of the crashes, as so many of the riders have done this week. And I know he looked like he was struggling a little bit early on there. He's just shaking it out again, that right shoulder, giving him a little bit of an issue, and quite possibly the aftermath of that massive crash that he had in the Tour de France, and he'll be struggling with injuries for quite a time to come, I'm sure, going into the winter and the back end of the season.
Riding with injuries is it's a fact of life for a professional bike rider.
It is, unfortunately. You have to get back up, and we see it a lot where riders crash and they get back up on the bike. As long as the bike is okay and mechanically sound, they get themselves back up and they have to ride, and then they'll check themselves
and then find out how injured they are.
That's right, because the last thing they want to do is be going out the back of the race.
Samuel Sanchez at the back of the group, just gathering his thoughts ahead of the battle to come. Still just over 30 kilometres between them and the finish. 2 minutes and 8 seconds. So Samuel Sanchez at the back of this 10-rider group, and extending a little bit, 2 minutes and 14 seconds, but we're waiting for the action to happen up front of the peloton, a little bit further back. But nice pace being set by Enduro Racing on the front for Jonathan Tiernan-Locke, who is safely and comfortably in the group behind. Tiernan-Locke, of course, with a 13-second advantage over Lee Howard heading into today's stage, but that advantage has now been pegged to 10 seconds because Lee Howard took the first Yodel sprint of the day, and with it earned 3 bonus seconds. And Boy van Poppel as well also took a second on that occasion, so he's now within 19 seconds. He's in 4th position. Lee Howard now 10 seconds behind. Nathan Haas at 18 seconds in third place. So several riders within touching distance of Jonathan Tiernan-Locke's IG Gold jersey. And indeed, the next 5 riders on general classification are just over a half a minute behind, within a half a minute of Jonathan Tiernan-Locke. And then Christian Canese at 1 minute and 34 seconds. So a lot of riders there with an opportunity to threaten Jonathan Tiernan-Locke, and he's remaining ever vigilant towards the front of the peloton, just getting the maximum amount of shelter with the minimum amount of danger there, just behind his teammates. The race leaders are within 20 kilometres of the finish in Dartmouth, as the gap has shrunk now to 1.5 minutes. Enduro Racing still piling on the pressure at the front. Lots of tired legs in the peloton today, lots of tired legs out front amongst the leading 10 riders. Samuel Sanchez still in there. Up front, joined by his teammate from Euskaltel, Pablo Urtazan, who's taken top King of the Mountains points at Maryvale and Coffin Stone, and closed the gap a little between himself and Christian House in the Skoda King of the Mountains competition. But still, you would imagine that Christian House is in good shape there. Other riders up front of the break: Ivan Basso of Liquigas, Mark Demar of United Healthcare, Jerome Coppel of Sora Sojasan is there, Marcin Bielablocki, as we mentioned, has done a great job for Node 4 Giordana. Bernie Sulzberger for Rally, Jan Barta is up there, as indeed is Ronan McLaughlin and Jacek Morachko.
All these riders ridden extremely well together today. They've all taken, pretty much all of the riders have taken it in turn to set the pace. Just the last few kilometres, there's 1 or 2 being sat on.
Confirmation of the final sprint with Bielablocki first across the line ahead of Morachko and Demar, and they take the bonus seconds. Really not of any value to them. Disappointment perhaps for Lee Howard that he wasn't able to get involved in that sprint, but as he said earlier, Rob, if he can get up the front, if he's in the shake-up for final sprint honours, then he has every chance of closing that gap significantly, or perhaps even snatching the jersey.
Yeah, Enduro Racing have done a fantastic job today by pegging this group, just keeping it within a manageable time gap, but as we said, not wanting to bring it back too early, because they didn't want any of the other sprinters, the better sprinters, to take those time bonuses back on those final 2 Yodel sprints. More notably, Lee Howard, obviously, he won the first one today and took a valuable 3 seconds, so cutting his deficit from 13 to 10 seconds. They're in second place behind current race leader, Jonathan Tiernan-Locke from Enduro Racing.
Gap opens up a little bit again. It's all good news, you think, for Lee Howard. It's a testing and lumpy finish to the stage, but if he can hang on in there with Jonathan Tiernan-Locke in the end game, then he will have an opportunity. He's a good track man, definitely a good galloper. Yeah,
he would. Man on man, you would definitely put Lee Howard in favour of Jonathan for the sprint finish, but it's a lot of difficult road. Yeah, it's short and extremely sharp, these last few kilometres. We're about to start it, we're about to see it fairly soon, and I would imagine that this group will start to split up, and possibly a small handful of these guys trying to go clear and really trying to force the pace. 2 minutes now. It seems to be going back out a little bit.
That's interesting, isn't it? I mean, it looked a few minutes ago as if they just decided to close it off and shut it down, and that other teams were going to start getting involved, but throttle back and the break have re-established that advantage. And as you can see, there's an indication they're spread wide across the road. Jonathan Tiernan-Locke safely escorted by his Enduro Racing teammates. Sky starting to get involved up front.
Yeah, it's actually good work by Enduro Racing. They don't actually want to bring this break back because they want those valuable time bonuses obviously taken up by the riders out clear, because it will not affect his GC chances.
And so many teams represented up front, of course, that won't be getting involved in the chase. So
yeah, and we see Team Sky just trying to move to the fore. They're looking to try and upset things here. Mark Cavendish, shots of him. He's made it back into this group. I saw him distance on one of the climbs, but he got himself back in with the help of Jeremy Hunt. So he's here, but I can't imagine that they're trying to set it up for him today.
It's tough to see him getting over those last couple little stingers.
It is, but who knows? Certainly not beyond his capabilities, but the form that he's got at the moment, I really don't know. I think they're probably looking more for the interests of their rider just back there, about 10 back, Christian Nice. He's their rider for general classification. He's up there just outside a minute now, in 7th place, a minute and a half. In fact, as we see Mark Cavendish there, just on Walter Subrandi from IG Sigma Sport there, just ahead of him.
Cavendish is doing a great job, you'd have to say, today. And you'd never rule out a man who has won Milan-San Remo. If you can make it up the Poggio after however many hours it is out there, then it's definitely possible. And if Cavendish did manage to come up with a stage victory today, well, what a cheer there would be, and what an extraordinary achievement it would be for him.
It would be. He's worn that jersey with honour and pride, and he certainly wants to do it justice. But it looks here, the riders now being told 2 minutes. It's going to be difficult now for this group, at least the front of them. We may see 1 or 2 of the riders be caught by the riders behind, but it's looking more and more unlikely that this group is going to get caught. And I would imagine that the winner of today's stage here in Dartmouth is going to come from one of these riders.
Inside the final 10 miles, this group have 2 minutes and 10 seconds, 10 riders up front, and pretty soon I think they're going to change from defence to attack as we come towards those little lumpy bits towards the finish. Which
teams do tend to kind of look after you a little bit. They certainly won't ride you into the finish, but there's generally the riders do have a lot more respect for you.
What is the real potential of Jonathan Tiernan-Lock? Is it possible to speculate? I mean, he really is the emerging star of the British stage racing scene, if you want to put it that way.
He is, and he's just been selected this week for the World Championships next week in Limburg, and who knows what that rider can do on that circuit. He is there for learning, and it's certainly a different style of racing to what he's normally been used to, but who knows. He's certainly got a lot more potential, and when he's in a bigger squad, he will only flourish, I'm sure, as we see the riders hitting this tough section now. Only 10 kilometres to go, and I'm sure we're going to see some kind of attack. We must see an attack from that group.
Mark Cavendish hanging on in there. We'll be hoping that this group is closed down, and the gap is plummeting, and it looks as if Mark Cavendish's day is done. He just floats off the back, and the intensity and the effort of trying to stay in the wheels, well, means that he's just not got the gallop required. Or is he just waiting for his car behind? Maybe he's calling the car up.
Yep, it's actually his own teammate putting him out the back there. Jeremy Hunt just doing last-ditch effort as we see the first of the rider here starting to lose contact. Bialabrocki from node 4.
So he wasn't scrubbing at the back, he was actually feeling it. So fair play to Marcin Bialabrocki's been on the front and up front for quite a bit of this week, and this is definitely not a parkour that would suit him, as the attacks come from behind, and it's Endura that are setting it up for Jonathan Tiernan-Lock. He's barely breathing, seems very comfortable, but there's plenty of riders on his wheel that are feeling an awful lot less comfortable. And here comes Jonathan Tiernan-Lock. This is the moment when he pulls the trigger to see what response there's going to be from behind, and they're in agony on his wheel, and he's looking very good indeed. He's drawing riders clear behind as riders are shelled off the back.
Yeah, that's Von Hoff there from Garmin Sharp starting to lose contact. All these riders starting to struggle now, and is that Caruso there? It's Caruso.
Damiano Caruso of the Liquigas team has managed to get in there. Garmin are represented as well, as the attacks come on the front as well. Here's Mark Demar, who has attacked United Healthcare rider. And Samuel Sanchez, somewhat surprisingly, seems to be struggling a little bit. Jan Barta attempts to get them back into contention.
And here we go. And Haas from Garmin Sharp, the only 2 riders at the moment able to stay with Tiernan-Lock. We've got Netap just starting to come up, as we see Coppel now here just starting to lose ground.
So it's going to shreds. Ronan McLaughlin looks as if he's cooked in a big way as Jerome Coppel tries to go again and get back into contention, joined by Samuel Sanchez up front in the peloton. Damiano Caruso, is that him, as Jonathan Tiernan-Locke has managed to establish a lead group of 4 or 5 riders, and the peloton desperately trying to get back into contention.
And Lee Howard, I think, is the rider who's missed out at the moment. It's Lee Howard, the rider in second position from Orica Green Edge, who's lost contact. That second place in the IG general classification behind Tiernan-Locke. Looks like he's starting to lose ground as the Euskaltel rider here, Sanchez, gets up to the 3 leaders now.
Oh, and he's absolutely dying. He's looking behind to see can he get some help from Coppell, but Coppell's gone. Meanwhile, up front, Mark Demar, where is he getting this strength from? Absolutely stunning work from the United Healthcare rider, who's been to the fore all week, as Urtasun looks like he's certainly in good form too. Ivan Basso very much in contention and playing a watching brief, as it's Mark Demar that does all the damage on the front of the break. Those remaining riders are going to fall back into the clutches of this group as Jonathan Tiernan-Locke takes it up at the front.
Yep, and there's a handful of riders just starting to come across, but I cannot see Lee Howard. I do not see an Orica Green Edge jersey there.
So Nathan Haas has managed to get there. Nathan Haas, of course, lying in 3rd place and just 18 seconds behind. So this is the select group of GC contenders that Jonathan Tiernan-Locke has managed to gather clear of the bunch, as the break up front are battling for stage honours.
Sanchez is moving forward now. He's gone off the front, just starting to attack over the top, create some damage.
I think he's just caught at the back a little bit, and you know, maybe done a hard turn just before that, but he's certainly recovered well. He's dug in a big way as the digs are coming too from this group behind. 2 Source Sanchez riders represented, Garmin, Liquigas, and of course Endura in the form of Jonathan Tiernan-Locke, who's starting to show the pain on his face.
Yep, Basso here just trying to crouch down on the descent here, the short, sharp descent, just trying to stay with these 3 riders.
Now the gap inside a minute now with 7.5 kilometres to go. It's hard to imagine that this group behind, but they've relatively fresh legs. They haven't been chasing. They've been sitting in the wheels all day, and now these riders up front who've been going up and over and really laying down the maximum power they could for the length of time they're out there. Now they're starting to feel it, but will they be able to hang on? Just 50 seconds now between them and the race leaders behind.
Yep, 16% that sign there for this descent. Sharp technical descent through the shadows there, and all 4 riders so far have made it through, as we just go back to the group chasing them.
The group up front of the chasing group, Jonathan Tiernan-Locke goes to the front again. Caruso onto his wheel like a shot. Nathan Haas is never far from Jonathan Tiernan-Locke, but look at that for a picture of concentration and intensity, and he's focused on only one thing, and that's going for it, and it's great to see. It's fascinating to see a yellow jersey not content just to sit in the wheels of the other riders, but trying to make the pace, because he knows he's got to try and distance himself from Lee Howard.
Coppell here, the French rider, trying to go across now. He's jumped across to the 4 leaders to join the two Spaniards from Euskaltel.
That's great effort from Coppell, finished in the top 15 in the Tour de France a few years ago, and also 3rd in the under-23 competition at the Tour de France. Hasn't really made it as a big stage race contender, more of a time trial rider, and this not really your average time trial course, so it's going to be a tough ask for him to hang on with these other.
David Clark there, number 22, Node 4 Giordano, has made this group. Who else is there? Looks like there's a GB jersey. That's Josh Edmondson. I'm pretty sure that that's Josh, the rider who really did come to the fore in yesterday's stage in the final few kilometres to go clear and try and go across to the 2 riders.
Euskaltel, sorry Rob, have a great opportunity here. They've 2 riders up there, and it looks as if Urtasun has pretty strong legs.
But I'll tell you who has got strong legs at the moment. That's that rider we're looking at here, really tapping out of tempo. He doesn't look fatigued whatsoever at the moment. The cadence that he's holding as we go back yet again to these 4 riders, still 55 seconds with 6 kilometres to go. Pretty sure that the winner of today's stage is going to come from one of 4 of these, as Sanchez takes up the pace on the front.
And Jonathan Tiernan-Locke looked behind, and he had Damiano Caruso on his wheel. He's 23 seconds behind on general classification, and Tiernan-Locke said, any chance of a dig out? And he got a shake of the head. Caruso is really suffering there.
He is gritting his teeth there. It's not a choice of I don't want to ride it, so I can't, as we see that style there of Dave Clark on the back here, number 22, Note 4 Giordano rider. Great riding by him. He certainly enjoys these kind of roads.
They pulled the team cars from the break out, perhaps a little earlier in terms of distance, as you might expect, but team cars are all out of it, so it's a match race between these 4 riders up front and the expanding group of general classification contenders led by Jonathan Tiernan-Locke. A few riders have managed to clip across to it. There's very few riders doing any work. Indeed, there's really only Tiernan-Locke. It's left to him to try and see what he can do. Less about chasing these riders and more about putting as much distance as he possibly can between himself and Lee Howard.
And the rider who, if he wants to win the stage, needs to apply pressure on the uphill, and that was Basso, as we see Marcin Białobrocki being brought back from the remnants of that original break. Josh Edmondson goes on the attack. Wow, Josh Edmondson, the young GB rider, pushing forward now.
Oh, what a fantastic performance by Josh Edmondson, 2 days in a row. He's a young rider, but clearly has wonderful powers of recovery. And Edmondson has managed to go clear of Jonathan Tiernan-Locke. Tiernan-Locke won't be too concerned about Josh Edmondson. He's not really a contender overall.
No, he's at 6 minutes 15 in 15th place. It's a good move for him. He's just going for the stages. Ivan Basso, this is what he needs to do. If he wants to take this stage, he needs to go on the hills.
Basso
he's got rid of his main competitor now, I think, in Sanchez, who's just starting to lose ground.
Good news for Basso. Samuel Sanchez has a decent turn of pace at the conclusion of any stage, so he'd definitely like to put some distance between himself and Basso. But Urtasun has looked very, very strong. Absolutely no difficulty in responding to that attack from Ivan Basso. And as he goes to the front, has a little look behind as if to say, well, I don't mind if Samuel Sanchez comes back to us. So you suspect that as Mark Demard attempts to get back into contention, suspect that Ivan Basso is really going to have to take it up himself.
He is. I think that Esquetel, though, Urtasun does need to push on, because I think Sanchez, his day's over now. But I think the danger man now is that Mark Demar, after the stage that he won into Stoke. He is the danger man.
Quick tribute for Josh Edmondson. He's got a narrow advantage over the Jersey group, but so impressive. And clearly a man for the future. This British cycling team, which was a late addition to the list of riders, and they're certainly showing that they were well worth their invitation.
Most definitely. As Mark Lamar, he's made contact now with the 2 leaders, Basso and Urtasun. And Basso there, he's not going to contribute on the flat. He's going to wait for this last climb that's going to come up in the next couple of kilometres or so, as Mark Demar puts in the attack.
Sees a couple of bike lengths between himself and Urtasun and decides to go for it, but that looks as if it's relatively comfortably marshalled by Urtasun.
4 kilometres to go now as Edmondson, he realises that his hope for glory is slightly coming to an end now as this group comes up to him. Not surprising, the man bringing him back is Tiernan-Locke. He's not concerned about riders ahead of him. These 3 riders aren't going to be up there for IG Markets general classification. He's not interested with the stage. He's interested in pushing forward and taking more time out of the guys behind him. Lee Howard from Orica Green Edge is that rider.
I'll tell you what, the stage is on, because they're inside half a minute. 28 seconds was the last time check we got there a few moments ago. And you know, if these riders continue to finesse ahead of them, as they seem to be a little bit too cagey, Mark Demar is desperately trying to get clear of Ivan Basso.
Yeah, Basso, the best climber from this group, but probably the less explosive, the least of the 3 riders here with the explosive ability. Having said that, he's the one who's put the move in.
Ivan Basso knows he has to try and get clear of Mark Demar. Urtasun responds. Will they manage to head as we see the group behind? Jonathan Tiernan-Locke now sitting on the wheel of Nathan Haas, as Bernie Sulzberger has come back from the break. The remaining stragglers from that 10-man break are mopped up by the Jersey group, and they desperately try to stay in contention. Josh Edmondson has been controlled at this point. Demar, Urtasun and Ivan Basso up front. Demar, they're leaving on the front, and You suspect that they need to keep riding if they're going to hold off Jonathan Tiernan-Lock et al.
They do need to keep riding. They can't afford to start playing cat and mouse just yet. As we see Netap trying to go clear again. Moving on, and it's the guy in that gold jersey taking up the chase yet again. Tiernan-Lock and Sanchez. He's starting to pull forward again and regain contact with these three riders. That is good news for Sanchez.
Great news for Sanchez, great news indeed for Urtazan as well. And it's a very, very fast downhill, and well, certainly the man with the biggest reputation as a descender in this group is Samuel Sanchez. He goes to the front.
Yep, good move there by Sanchez. It's all downhill now, pretty much all downhill and very technical. That will suit him, that will suit his style, himself and Demar.
Now the Jersey group are Group 3 on the road and 51 seconds in arrears, so significant advantage indeed between the break and the Jersey. So we'll get the time check to the second group and the third group at that point. Okay, 51 seconds between the Jersey and the riders up front.
Yellow jersey group just going through that 3 kilometre mark there now. 51 seconds the advantage the four riders have over them. This one lone chaser from Netap trying to go clear.
2K from the finish as Netap once more involved in the action, as indeed they were yesterday with Leopold Koenig. And up front it's the meet in the Euskaltel sandwich are Ivan Basso and Mark Demar. And Sanchez and Urtazan up front have the tactical advantage. 1.7 kilometres from the finish, heading down this hill. Sanchez, but it looks as if he's going to have to lead it out.
Yeah, he's doing an awful lot of work on the front. Still 1.6 kilometres to go.
As they sweep down the hill, it's a perfect opportunity, you would imagine, for someone like Sammy Sanchez. Not particularly technical. They do have a little bit of a bend to the left before they make that final right-hander. The final right-hander is testing and challenging, and then it is right about 350. It's going to be a long lead out, difficult lead out, unless a rider managed to get a little bit of a gap. You'd imagine they'll finesse a little bit more as we see them sweeping through this left-hander and piling down towards the final right-hand bend. It's Samuel Sanchez on the front, Mark Demar for United Healthcare in their second position. Urtazan, Sanchez, Euskaltel teammate in third place, and Ivan Basso at the back of the group, who would be least favourite of these riders, as Mark Demar goes for it. As Sanchez, they leave on the front, so Mark Demar sweeping around to try and see who's coming. Sanchez looks as if here comes Mark Demar going for it. He leads it out, and Sanchez gives a big cheer for Urtazan as shouts him on. He's trying to lead out his teammate. Urtazan looks like he's got good legs. Who's going to get it? Will it be Urtazan gets it? Gets his hands in the air by the narrowest of margins from Mark Demar, with Ivan Basso in third place, and Samuel Sanchez celebrates after setting it up beautifully. He had huge confidence in his teammates' sprint, and it was well justified. Wonderful teammates work from the Euskaltel team, who come out with the Tour of Britain stage victory in Dartmouth. As we see the group behind the lone Netap rider, and looking further back, Jonathan Tiernan-Lock has managed to put significant distance between himself and Lee Howard, so it's his jersey will be retained. As we see Nathan Haas leads out, no bonus seconds left for him.
Koenig there, number 105.
Leopold Koenig for the second day in a row is in contention, but not quite managing to get to the break. Good news for Jonathan Tiernan-Lock. Blow of the cheeks as he comes across the line. 50 seconds in arrears and comfortably in the IG Gold jersey for another day. So wonderful performance from all riders in the break, as Pablo Urtazan comes up with stage honours and accepts the congratulations of his teammates.
Great riding there by the two Euskaltel Escadi riders, and it was Urtazan, Pablo Urtazan, who took the spoils today.
And what a performance. I mean, we should pay tribute to Samuel Sanchez, because in my thinking, it was all about Sanchez for the gallop, but clearly he knew that Urtasun had obviously had great legs and had a decent turn of pace.
He was on paper, I would certainly have put Sanchez, but then the way he was riding at the back end of that race in those last few hundred metres, they'd switched it, and it was all about Urtasun. And here we can see Sanchez just looking for his rider, and Marc de Mar was forced to take it up fairly early. Basso, no chance of getting involved in that sprint. As we said, not the most explosive of riders, but Urtasun it was who just managed to get by. And Marc de Mar denied a second stage win in this race, in this year's Tour of Britain.
Marc de Mar fires first, but didn't have the strength after a tough day out. And, well, that's stage racing, because Urtasun on any other parkour perhaps mightn't be able to get past Marc de Mar, but he had fresh legs and clearly is going very, very well indeed.
Is the composition of the four-man who've got away. Pete Williams, he's been very aggressive all tour, hasn't he? And he, having won the first 2 intermediate sprints of the day for Node 4 Giordana, has now nailed the Yodel Sprints competition. Well done to him. Jack Bobridge, the Australian pursuiter for Orica Greenedge, he's in that break of 4-2. Good aggressive riding from him today. His second breakaway ride of the tour. Wesley Crader of the effervescent Vacances Soleil team, well, he's in the break today. And domestic and indeed Surrey representation from Simon Richardson of IG Sigma Sport. At 18 minutes and 2 seconds, though, he is the best placed in the general classification, so no threat to the big boys there. OK, that's brought you up to date, and when we come back from a short commercial break, we'll have the rest of the race live.
Now have opened up their advantage a little bit, just under 3 minutes, and now between the 4 riders up front, Peter Williams, Jack Bobridge, Simon Richardson and Wesley Crader, to the bunch behind, being controlled as ever by the Enduro Racing squad and aided manfully today by the Sky squad. And part of the reason I think that the 4 riders have managed to open up their advantage is because Sky have throttled back a bit. Mark Cavendish has had to go back to the team car to get service, and you can see what the problem was. Rear wheel puncture. There was a chain off. To believe a puncture, and he's picked up, gets service reasonably quickly. So the bunch delayed a little while the reigning world champion, for a few days at least, Mark Cavendish, gets some service. No real panic there. Interesting that he's on his own. No riders came back with him, but they did wait at the tail of the field. And neutral service first to pick him up, but he decides to wait for a wheel perfectly compatible with his bike from his own team, and he duly trundles his way back up through the group. Up front, Sky are controlling the pace, but at a rate that makes it sure that Mark Cavendish will certainly be able to get in contention. Looks as if Cavendish feels pretty good about this one. Already got 2 stage wins under his belt this week and a second place finish, so in very, very strong sprinting form. Clearly in good form at the end of the season. Very impressive from that point of view. It's been a successful year for him in the rainbow jersey, and how he would love to finish off his reign as world champion with a win on home roads. This is Team UK Youth Rider. It's Dave McGowan of UK Youth Cycling, who's doing the all-important water carrying, and he's just got the medical car and the commissar's car to clear.
Hard now, aren't they? Really are. Look, is it splitting behind?
Yeah, and what's this going to do to Mark Cavendish? You can tell he's going to be hurting, because these riders on the front absolutely piling it, and Team NetApp have really laid their stall out here in a big way. Jonathan Tiernan-Locke looks secure in position in around about 7th or 8th spot. But Leopold Koenig, 5th, of course, in Stage 7 yesterday, and the winner of Stage 6 to Caerphilly in that dramatic fashion, coming off the wheel of Jonathan Tiernan-Locke in the run to the line. And he obviously is in absolutely flying form, the man from the Czech Republic. Kozarski too, as you say, is sitting pretty in 6th position. Hard to see him getting to Tiernan-Locke with a 2-minute deficit, but he could move up overall. And they've taken the riders, taken the team vehicles out between the front group of 4 riders and the group behind, so It's a clear race between them and no impediments there. So these 4 riders up front will do well to get over the top of the climb without the group behind. And look, it's absolutely shattered to bits. There's just a tiny group of riders behind that are chasing, and the bunch at 6 and 7, one big long line. Riders really struggling to stay in contention. Johnny McAvoy has done such great work this week, and we should pay tribute. He spent so much of the week on the front along with Ian Bibby, and working hard for his teammate Jonathan Tiernanlock, as indeed as Paul Voss and Zach Dempster, who had to retire injured a few days ago. Up front, Team NetApp absolutely flying, but Jonathan Tiernanlock looks pretty comfortable there.
Yeah, NetApp really have put the pressure on the rest of the peloton here, but no pressure whatsoever for Tiernanlock. In fact, it looks like he's going on the attack himself. He's coming out of the wheels there, and there it is, game over. Those 4 riders that have been out front all day, that's it. That's the end of their day.
They had a minute to get at the bottom of the hill, you know, less than a kilometre ago. As Simon Richardson presses on, whatever Jack Bubbridge said to him, he's ignoring at this point. So great opportunity for these 2 riders to at least hang on, and perhaps indeed the other 2 as well, to hang on in whatever group establishes over the top. With 45 kilometres to go to the end of the race, it's a tough ask for this group to stay out front, but they've certainly absolutely blown the race apart up front.
It is. Yeah, Garmin Sharping fairly quiet today, so they will have fresher legs than everybody else. They will probably, quite possibly, have the better lead out of any of the teams here, but do they have the confidence in their rider? One team who will have confidence is Team Sky.
Orica Greenedge look to try and get organised as well. Presumably they'll be trying to set up Lee Howard, 4th place overall for him, but he slipped out of the general classification hunt yesterday, and now they have to focus on the possibility of stage wins. You have Ida Skropis as well, who's also been so strong this week and managed to get into contention for stage honours now within the last 2.5 kilometres. And it looks as if the other squads are happy enough to leave Sky on the front for as long as possible.
Yeah, Bernie Eisel here on the front. Now I'm sure he's coming to the end of the amount of work that he can do by the look on his face. He really is trying now. Jeremy Hunt gritting his teeth in his wheel. And looks like we've got Christian Nice in 3rd, and then Luke Rowe, and then Mark Cavendish. But just alongside them we've got Garmin Sharp trying to set it up. There we go, Bernie Eisel, that's his job done for the race. That's it. All that's left for him to do now is get himself to the finish and showered and fueled.
So not the lead out that they might have hoped for, because Jeremy Hunt has gone back onto the front. Small teams in this race, and it makes it a little bit more difficult to control, and that makes it all the more exciting when it comes to the end game. This is such a difficult finish for these riders at the end of what's been a really, really hard week of racing, and they're all scrabbling to stay on wheels right throughout the group as they head down towards the finish. So many of them just concerned about getting to the finish. Up front, riders with other ambitions.
Yep, 1.8 kilometres to go now. 2 Sky riders left there in front of their man Mark Cavendish. Garmin Sharp starting to move up. Will Cavendish let Luke Rowe's wheel go and allow a couple of other riders in front of him?
So much is made of Cavendish's lead-out train, but he's certainly a rider who's shown us over the last few years that he's capable of doing it on his own if need be, not least in the World Championships last year. It's a late attack from one of the Sojason riders as it caught the field napping. He's got a long way to go as United Healthcare attempt to control.
It is United Healthcare, their man boy Van Poppel in the chain reaction sprint jersey there in 2nd place there behind his teammate. Mark Cavendish has got himself into a good position. He's got a few riders in front of him now. That's the way he likes it.
Boy Van Poppel in the chain reaction cycles points jersey. He'll be confirmed in that at the conclusion, I suspect, very shortly. Up front, Sky have managed to get back control of this peloton, so that's a brief flurry off the front for Sojason as they pile down the hill towards the final turn. A little bit of a technical one, and the gap has opened up there between, but Cavendish doesn't want to go yet. He's waiting and waiting and waiting, and he's prepared to let someone else lead it out, because this is a really, really tough climb. The last 200 metres is going to feel like 300 metres for these riders as they go for the line. Boy Van Poppel there on the left hand side. Cavendish looks so cool, calm and collected. He's already got several bike lengths advantage. Listen to the crowd roar. It's the world champion going for the line in Guildford at the end of the Tour of Britain of 2012. He's got several bike lengths advantage. No one's going to stop Mark Cavendish now. He gets his hands in the air. It's his third win, third stage victory for Mark Cavendish. A superb performance from the world champion, superb performance from Sky, superb performance too indeed from Enduro Racing's Jonathan Tiernan-Locke, who is confirmed as the winner of Tour of Britain of 2012. Great finish there from Mark Cavendish, and indeed from all the pelotons. And riders coming over the line in dribs and drabs. Mark Demar at the back of the field has a little reach into his pocket for some recovery food. It's been a tough week for these riders. 8 stages, 1,347 kilometres, and well, they felt every one of those, but such an impressive finish from Mark Cavendish. He did the business and now he feels it, but really it looked relatively straightforward for him. Great effort too from Jonathan Tiernan-Locke throughout this stage. Cool, calm and collected. That little flurry of excitement with 45 kilometres to go didn't seem to faze him at all, did it? And he is certainly a man for the future. Could well be exchanging places with Mark Cavendish at the Sky team next year. That's if it's confirmed that Jonathan Tiernan-Locke is going to Sky, and indeed if Mark Cavendish is likely to leave Sky. No confirmation of that, certainly. That's still very much all up in the air. Let's get a sight of it again. Mark Cavendish got the beautiful lead out into the final turn, but didn't want to go too early. He was fully aware of just how long this hill was. Of course, the riders had an opportunity to survey it after the first loop, and Mark Cavendish just waited and waited and waited, but when the time came, had no problem just opening up a several bike length advantage and racing clear for his third stage success of this race. And nothing between. He had plenty of time to get his hands in the air. Victory in Dumfries, victory in Blackpool, a second place to Lee Howard in the stage from Nottingham to Knowlesley, stage 2. So it's been a great week for Mark Cavendish, and he's given the home crowd just what they wanted to see.
For classification, I'm sure it will be confirmed very shortly. The winner, though, and under no great threat today, and thoroughly deserved, the British rider, the Devon boy, Jonathan Tiernan-Locke. He leads home Nathan Haas from Australia, Garmin Sharp in second place, and Damiano Caruso of Liquigas finishes in third. Matt Stevens has joined us here. Jonathan Tiernan-Locke's ride today, we saw that climb at Bar Hatch where he attacked, and then when things came together, he just rode tempo again and just kept it easy, didn't he?
He just basically showed him who's boss. He showed a maturity beyond his years today. I mean, he came into this race as favourite, and he delivered, and that is impressive. I mean, against this kind of field, you know. So as I said to you a few days ago, this guy is the next British superstar, and he rode with panache and style and a lot of grace today. So yeah, a wonderful win.